If you would, please tell the people who you are.
I am Sharee Allen, the owner and founder of Couture Events.
All right. Welcome, Sharee.
Thank you.
And absolutely, absolutely. What does it mean to be the owner and founder of Couture Events?
Well, it means to be bold, distinctive, and luxe. I consider my business to be very different from a lot of other event planning businesses, and so I feel like we have a signature look. We have a signature within our details that we convey for our clients.
Okay. You mentioned a few adjectives of that signature look. Can you go into detail about that?
So bold. I feel like there's so many event planners, so many events out there right now where things look the same, things look stagnant. It's the same kind of look, same type of feel, and I really don't want any event to look the same that I do. I want it to be very different from the client that I did before. So just like I do floral arrangements. So like I've never made duplicated a bouquet ever. I've never made the same bouquet. Even if someone says, "Oh my gosh, I want that same bouquet," I would never make the same one. It would always have to be different. And so the boldness, that's where that comes from. The distinctiveness, um, it just needs to be different. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be rare. And so I feel like when people book with me, that's what they get. They get distinctive look. They get a distinctive event. And then looks, obviously there's a certain type of feel that I want my client to have. I want them to feel luxury. I want them to feel like they are a guest part of their event. I want it to always be long lasting. I always used to say, and I still do say this, like it's always been bigger than the event for me. Um, I want my clients and their guests to just remember their event from years from now, 20 years, 10 years, whatever. So that's where the looks piece comes from.
I love that. How did you get into doing events? Sorry that I don't have the right
No, you're fine.
adverbs,
You're good.
but putting events together, coordinating.
So back when I was in college, I started working for a Four Diamond Resort, the only Four Diamond Resort in Daytona Beach, Florida. And so I attended Bethune-Cookman College, woo, woo, Wildcats.
Okay. HBCU
And
pride.
so while I was attending there, I worked for a Four Diamond Resort. I started working in events. I was server, started at the bottom of the barrel. We would do weddings every weekend, probably anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000 weddings every weekend. People paid a lot of money to have a wedding there. It was beach scene. It was absolutely gorgeous. And so I really fell in love with events. I was like, oh my God, like, to know that you're part of someone's experience of a celebration of a lifetime is just no greater feeling. And so as I started working there, we would do a lot of events for NASCAR as well. And so I was actually offered a job working for AmeriCrown Catering for NASCAR. And so once I was done working at the hotel for a few years, I got hired on as a catering manager, a traveling catering manager. And so I started doing that. I did that for over 10 years, traveling East Coast, West Coast, to races. And my job was to take care of the folks in the infield, lounges, and VIP areas where they sat inside. So when you go to a NASCAR race, there's always a club at a race. And so those folks sit inside, they're in AC, they have different high end foods. The look is different. You're dealing with different chefs and how things are going to be conveyed to their clients. And so I did that for a long time. And so a lot of my um, service industry experience comes from the Four Diamond Hotel and working with NASCAR because there was a certain level of service that our clients expected. And so I really kind of altered that and filtered that into my own business to where, I'm always going to deliver that kind of experience. So that's how I got started, and I absolutely love it.
And what was your role there again?
With NASCAR?
Yes.
Catering manager.
Wow.
Traveling catering manager. Yeah.
What gave you the confidence that you could branch out on your own and do it yourself?
I really knew that I could do it on my own because I worked just as hard as for anybody else. I've never worked for any company and gave a half-ass experience. I've never. I don't plan on it, and that's just never been me to do that. but I knew like, man, I work just as hard for somebody else. I can open my own company and do the same thing and deliver just as much, even not more of an experience that I deliver with someone else. So that really gave me the confidence that I could do that. And then I had the tools. I had great mentors, people that taught me like, Sharee, this is what you need to do. This is how this level of service. You serve from the left, you pick up from the right. Like all of those like tiny small things that people think that are so minute, that really sets your experience with your business and your company apart. So I always knew I could do it.
What was it like having to pivot when the pandemic hit? Because events were just canceled out.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was crazy. It was, I quickly was like, okay, the world is shutting down. No one's going anywhere. No one's booking any events. Like, what am I gonna do? And so I literally, like, I remember taking out a notepad and was like, okay, what can I do to still sustain, but still deliver service? And so I started doing heavily floral arrangements. So I would do once a month, twice a month, weekly, whatever that case may be. So I emailed all of my clients. I emailed all of my male grooms. And I was like, listen, you need to send your wife some flowers. Like, call me or whatever. So I did that. And then Chef Tyler Thomas, he's out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we collaborated on a few things prior to the pandemic. And so I actually reached out to him. And I was like, hey, let's do some in-home dining things. Like, I can do the decor and florals. You take care of the food. Let's collaborate. Let's do some packages. And he was like, I'm down. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do either. And so we actually collaborated quite a bit during the pandemic. We would, if he got a client that had in-home dining, because in-home dining really moved. It was a movement during the pandemic, and it still is. People that have, really nice homes, or even, if it's their first starter home, they dined at home. No one went anywhere. No one was going out. No restaurants were shut down. And so their home was their intimate space. And so we collaborated, and we made it work. We did a lot of in-home dining, intimate dinners, intimate celebrations, and it was great. I love intimate. I feel like the details really can be flourished throughout an event when it's intimate. So that's what I did during the pandemic. And actually, during the pandemic, I made the most money I've ever made during the pandemic, ever.
Are you always thinking of the next opportunity, the best way to make money? What motivates that, hey, I have to shift, and you do it with such grace?
Yeah, I'm always like 6 months ahead of the game. Like, I'm always like, okay, we're in July. What's going on in January? Like, what do I need to be working on? What do I need to be thinking about? And then just constantly networking. Like, networking is big for me. A lot of planners ask me, like, how do I get connected with this person? How do I get connected with that person? But networking is a major key factor in the event world. I truly believe the relationships make my business successful. I feel like the vendors that I work with, like, I could do nothing without the vendors that I work with. Nothing. Like, I can't. The staff that I have, like, they're some of the best people I've ever been connected with. And so truly, like, as the visionary person, truly looking ahead and seeing where can I be in 6 months? What do I need to be connected with in 6 months? What do I need to prepare for now for 6 months? Because there's one thing to have a big dream, but then there's one thing to sit back and be like, okay, well, how am I going to get to that dream? You can't sit back and wait on the dream. You have to put some kind of actions into play, put something into play so that it can be executed. Because you can say, oh, I want to do this, this, and this, but if you don't do anything to prepare for that, you're not doing any of that. And just also giving yourself grace within that process. As creatives, I feel like sometimes we get in a rut and we're like, dang, like, I want it right now, but I'm going to have to take these 10 steps before I get to that now. And that's okay. Like, you're going to have months where it's like, you're just thinking, you know what I'm saying? You're just thinking, you're in slow motion. You are trying to figure out, where am I going next in my business? And so I feel like those downtimes, those are some of my best times, my downtimes, because I can really, like, tune in on what what direction God wants me to go in. What do I need to let this go and add this? And that's okay with letting go too. Like I recently just rebranded my business, and I altered some things that I always offer. And I was like, okay, God was like, you need to let that go. And I was like, why? Because I've been doing this for 5-6 years, but that's okay. Just because you've been doing it for 5-6 years doesn't mean you don't need to pause that for a second and do something else. It's okay. So,
Were you always this person? Have you always been that way?
no, I just saw, like, when I first started the business, I just saw, like, man, like, I can't. Yeah, I might be working on, like, right now I'm working on 4 events right now at the same time. They're all spread out. But in the midst of me working on these events, I'm also working on other things that they're not even on the books. Like, there's this huge deal that I'm trying to do with South Park um, during Christmas time, and I'm working on it. But I'm also, like, as I'm working, I'm thinking about, okay, I need to do this. I need to connect these dots. I need to connect with this person. Like, you got to always be just like, once that event is over, I'm already on to the next. Like, my clients like, oh, they're basking in their event, which I'm basking too. But my mind is already like, okay, I'm on to the next thing. Like, I'm already at 3 of the events right now, and I just finished one. But you have to be that way, because if not, you'll miss the boat. But what's for you is for you. You will never miss what's for you. So I truly believe that too. But I believe in preparation for sure.
Speak to the idea of being present, because I know that's how you are, that's how you move. Yet and still, you're not absent-minded while that event is going on.
Yeah. Just really being in tune with me. Like, I run a lot. That is part of my mental health. I work a lot. I have 2 children. I'm a single mom. Like, I have several different tasks that I have going on, and plus my nonprofit. And so I'm very intentional about who's in my space, who I'm talking to on a daily, how I'm being poured into, because believe it or not, as a planner, I'm pouring into a lot of people. Like, my clients are like my best friends. Like, they tell me everything about what's going on in their life, what's going on with their kids, what's going on with their, spouses, whatever the case may be. Like, I'm in the know of everything with them. And so as I'm taking all of that in, and then I support moms with my nonprofit, and then my kids, my own kids that I birthed, like, it's a lot, and so I have to be intentional about my mental health. I have to take care of me. If for so long in this industry, I did not take care of me. I was pouring out, and then being burnt out, and then have nothing left for me, and then everybody else is happy as can be, because they've already drained me. They've taken everything from me, but I can no longer do that. And so I make sure that Sharee is good, because whether my best friend or a college girlfriend calls me, I can't wait on that. I have to check in on Sharee and say, is Sharee good? And I know when I'm not good and I'm empty, and I'm like, okay, I'm not taking no more phone calls for the next 3 hours. I got to tap back into me. I mean, I've actually told girlfriends before, like, hey, I'm not in a good space right now to talk, and I need to fill myself back up because I'm empty. And now I'm in a space where my cup is not going to be past half full. I'm not. Like, I can no longer let my cup get all the way to the bottom of the cup where I see, like, if you drink something, it's like a little bit, it's like one swallow left. I can't do that. Because I can't show up for me. Like, if I can't show up for me, I can't be present for my children, my clients, anybody. So it's really important for me to be intentional about where I'm giving myself out to. So that truly helps me.
Speak to your nonprofit. What is that about?
So, Meant to Be of the Carolinas is my second baby. Couture Events is my first, and then Meant to Be is my second baby. But Meant to Be of the Carolinas is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We support moms through advocacy, counseling, and emotional support. That organization was birthed through my own personal experience. I experienced postpartum depression with both of my children. It was very, very traumatic, very serious situation and conversation that people don't like to have. People, especially in the African American community, postpartum is not something that you talk about. You just deal with it, and that's it. And then, um, I wanted to create a space where women had, it was a safe space where they could talk about, how they were feeling, the emotions they were feeling, if they felt unsupported, if they didn't feel unsupported. And so I wanted to create a space for women to be able to come and talk about those things. We offer financial literacy programs. That piece came into play because as we did our research before we launched, that there was a lot of mothers in financial situations where they didn't have to be in those situations if they were educated enough. And so we offer financial literacy programs to help them educate about their finances, where they're going, what's a budget, where's your money going, do you have any income, did you know there's ways that you can earn streams of income. And then we provide 2 community baby showers per year, one in the fall and one in the spring. And so those showers now have become people that are in need. That's their baby shower. Like they don't have family in town or close family that live in Charlotte or Concord to say, hey, I'm in need. And so we've created this space. I'm super excited about it. We're actually coming up on our 5-year anniversary as an organization, spring of next year. And so we'll be having our first gala, which I'm super excited about. And we have typically about 65 moms at each baby shower. They get tons of gifts, resources. It's a whole event planned out, of course. And so a lot of my event industry friends, they help and they donate their services to help, which is very, very grateful. I'm grateful for that, to have people in the industry that understand the significance of it. And one of the things that's unique about Meant to Be is that we support single and married mothers. That's a stigma that I feel like needs to be broken, because I was married and now I'm single. I've seen both sides as a mother, as a married mother and as a single mother. And I feel like there's a stigma there where people think, oh, she's married, she doesn't need support. Oh, she's married, she doesn't need resources. That's not true, because every household is different. There may be a household where the husband, makes most of the income and she doesn't, or vice versa, or both working parents, or one feels like they're not as supported as the other. Like, you can't put it on just single moms. That's not true. And so we support single and married mothers. And so a lot of people think that is very unique. And so I'm excited about that. I was nervous at first because I didn't know how people were going to think that. But I'm in a space now, I really don't care what people think. If it was something that I personally experienced, I'm going for it. Like, because 9 times out of 10, somebody else experienced the same thing. So why not?
Well, congratulations on the gala coming up and all the other accomplishments that were spoken within. And I think that just speaks to the boldness, right? I think that's really amazing. Don't want to go down that route, but I think it's necessary. Talk to me about postpartum. What exactly is that?
So it's a mixture of emotions and just how a mother and how a woman is feeling when they are carrying a baby. And I really didn't understand the significance of postpartum and like the breakdown of it. Like, when you're carrying a child for 9 months, like, it is so important that you're not stressed, you're not taking on any unnecessary trauma or drama or just anything that can affect the development of your baby. And so you have like mommy blues where you're like, oh my God, like for me, for example, like I had both of my children at 36 weeks. I had them both emergency C-sections. They were both very traumatic. And so that's traumatic for someone, especially your first child. I literally delivered my baby and they flew my baby off to another hospital. Like, I didn't even get to touch my baby right out of the womb. So I was like, oh my God, as a mother, like, who doesn't want to hold their baby after they just had them? Like, I want to hold my baby right now, but I didn't have that opportunity to do that. And so, I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling like maybe I failed my child, or, what did I do wrong through my pregnancy? Was I worried about this too much? Was I worried about that too much? So many different emotions are going through, and postpartum can go on for a while. With my last child, my daughter's 3, I experienced postpartum all the way up until she turned 3. I literally didn't come out of postpartum until she turned 3. So there's no like number age limit on that. I mean, you could be in postpartum for a couple of years. It just really depends on the woman and the mother. It really does. So.
Is there something recognizable about being in postpartum that you can recognize being out of postpartum? Meaning, are there signs that people could be aware of?
Oh yeah, like just really being gone, not being present. You know, if there's somebody you know recently had a baby or is, you know, close to delivery and you notice a pattern change, that postpartum, or they just check out, postpartum. I could be in the grocery store and I can see a mother and I'm like, she's experiencing postpartum. She's depressed. Like I was so low that I even can now pick out even the opposite sex when they're depressed. That's how low I was. That's how low in depression I was in postpartum, that I can pick up on other signs of depression. I'm like, he's depressed. That's how low it was. Like, and I'm like, and he or she is not gonna say anything about it, but they're dealing with something. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You talked about some parts of your routine that go in like self-care. You mentioned that you run, things like that. What are some other things that you do for self-care?
Well, you know, having two younger kids, like they're always like in my space. So, you know, one of the things that I like to do, like once I put them in bed, they typically go to bed at 8:30 every night, even on the weekends. Yes, I have my kids on the schedule. Like that's just me. I need my time. I can't have my kids up 11, 12 o'clock at night. I need some time for me.
100%.
But once they get into bed, like I really like to light a candle and get in the shower and take a long shower. Like that is one of the most peaceful things for me, is to be able to take a long shower uninterrupted with not anybody at my door like banging, like looking down at the shower like, hey, can I take a shower in peace? Like, can I just wash myself like by myself? So that's one of the things. I also like to go to either like the farmer's market, my local store, or whatever, and buy eucalyptus and hang it in my shower. It's one of the most therapeutic things is eucalyptus in your shower. Try it out. I promise you would love it. It's literally like maybe $3 or $4 for eucalyptus, and get a rubber band, hang it on your shower head, and it's so relaxing. So that, I take myself out to dinner all the time. That's just something that I like to do. I don't have a problem with eating alone. A lot of people do. I don't have a problem with it. I love it. I like taking myself out. I like getting dressed up, taking myself out to dinner. I can date myself. I'm okay with that.
Some things that you mentioned, you'll say or speak to an awareness of what other people may not like or what may seem to be unconventional. Why do you say it that way? And I think I get it because I speak in the same type of way. But it's like, for instance, yeah, you have no problem dating yourself. You're sorry people, you know, hey guys, I have my kid on a schedule. Why do you feel the need to even justify those things sometimes, like in a way?
Because I think society thinks that you should be this way or that way, and that's not true. Like I constantly tell people all the time, you have to do what works for you and your household. Like what works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me. I do what works for me. My kids going to bed at 8:30 works for us. Like people were like, oh, that's so early. Like, well, it works for my kids because this is what we're doing, and get your butt in the bed. Like that's just what we're doing. Same with you know, business. You know, setting those boundaries. Like I don't really have clients. I have other planner friends in the industry. And they're like, man, like, Sharee, how you get your clients just come to the table and just pay $1,000 deposit? I said, because I kind of set the tone. This is what we're doing. Like, I don't give them a choice to go back and forth with me about what I'm charging. Like, the boundary is set. This is what it is. If this doesn't work for you, no problem. I wish you the best. Have a great day. That's it. Like, but you just have to set those boundaries. So.
Have you always been one to set those boundaries, to be you know, to stick to your gun, so to speak? Have you always been that way?
No, I haven't. I haven't always been that way. I used to just let people just kind of tell me what they're gonna do, and I realized like in the long run, nah, this ain't really what I want to do. Like I kind of screwed myself here. I shorted myself there. And when you do that, again, people run all over you. They see like, oh, she don't have a boundary. I can just tell her whatever. I can just do whatever. No, let's stop there because we're not going to do that. But yeah, I've not always been that way. Even in, business, with my children, relationships, all that. Like I used to not set boundaries. Now I set boundaries. If I don't feel like talking, I'm not answering the phone. If I don't feel like answering back, I don't answer back. Am I gonna answer back? Yeah, absolutely. But if in that moment I don't have the capacity to do it, I just don't have the capacity to do it. I'm no longer overly extending myself to be empty. Not gonna do it. And I used to do that and just be completely empty.
What helped you get to that point? What helped you get to that realization and be so committed to the evolution or elevation to where you are now?
When you're at your lowest, like I've been in, when I experienced postpartum and then even going through my divorce, like I was in a low place. Like for a whole year, I was still doing weddings and going through my separation and my divorce. And people, none of my clients knew. I was literally marrying people feeling like my marriage had failed. Like that's one of the lowest places. I hope this like really helps somebody. That's one of the lowest places you could ever be in. To be a wedding planner and to experience a divorce, it is a feeling that I've never experienced in my life. Because not that I wasn't happy or I'm not still happy for my clients and my brides. Absolutely. Like I think being a part of someone's wedding is one of the most humbling and like beautiful celebrations in this world, and to be a part of someone's life and their new life, I think it's the most humbling thing ever. But I can't sit here and say that I wasn't hurting celebrating someone else. I was. It was a low place for me. And so when I came out of that low place, I had to allow God, and literally it was a God thing, because I'm telling you all, I could not come out of that place without God. I literally questioned myself as a planner, experiencing my divorce and still doing weddings. I was done. I was like, you know what? I'm going to find someone to do the rest of my weddings for the rest of the year. I can't do this. Like I would literally get in my car, do a wedding, and cry all the way home after doing a wedding. Like you talk about low place. But I had to ask God to deal with me and help me, because I was like, God, if this is supposed to be my purpose, if this is what you called me to do, why am I hurting in this place? And sometimes we as creatives, entrepreneurs, it's not always glamorous. There are parts of entrepreneurship that are ugly. That was an ugly place for me as a planner. I hated being a planner at that moment. I was like, I'm done. This hurts me, and I'm supposed to love it. I'm supposed to show up and smile and be, get on stage and perform. And I'm not inside. I can't perform. But I still showed up, and God gave me the strength. He strengthened me in places where I thought I didn't ever have the strength. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to start pouring into me. And he really dealt with me about pouring back into myself, dealing with Sharee, dealing with parts of me that wasn't good. One of the most humbling experiences is self-checking yourself. If you've never self-checked yourself, I think you should. Looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, Sharee, you're ugly here. You're ugly here. You're not good here. You need to fix yourself there. But looking at yourself, I had to do a self-check on me and say, okay, I'm here in this space. Is everything my fault because of this? Maybe not so, but what can I do better coming out of this? That's a hard place to do. It's hard to do. We as people in this world, we're quick to be like, look at what Josh doing. You see Josh? He failed. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. But to look in the mirror and say, okay, wait, I'm not so perfect myself. I need to work on some things. And so once I began to work on me and really challenge Sharee, then I became better. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is so freeing, working on me and focusing on me. Not saying that I'm selfish and I'm not worried about anybody else, or I'm not wanting to pour out into anybody else. But there are seasons of your life where you have to check on you and look in the mirror and say, where can I be better? And that's what I had to do. But sometimes you don't get that until you're at your lowest. And I was at my lowest. And when you're at your lowest, it's only up from there. You can't go any lower than that. You know what I'm saying? So once I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't think I can go any lower. So we're going to have to do some self-work. And so once I did that, I became better. Is it still challenging? Yeah. But, make it work.
Thank you for your vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
That's really amazing. I think people can take a lot away from that. I know I will for sure. Yeah. And I know that I have for sure. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
How have you been able to show up for people better since being able to work on yourself, having the space, the capacity to even work on yourself, to see yourself?
Just being real and being honest. I used to be so like, oh no, like it's just so great, and this is so, and life is so peachy. But I began to see, and sometimes it is good. Sometimes it is great. Sometimes I literally, like, I just did a give back event with one of my clients yesterday, and those type of events, foundation, nonprofit, corporate, those type of level of clients, and even weddings, it's a different type of feeling knowing that you're part of someone's, again, celebrations, giving back to somebody's life, being a change in somebody's life. It's no better feeling, in those moments. I'm like, oh my God, like, I literally soak it up, and it takes me about a week to come down off of a wedding, a nonprofit, a foundation event, like, because so much is poured into that when you see the fruition of the work that was put in come out of it, you're like, oh my God, like, I want to stay in this space. And so I cling on to those moments because those are great moments. Those are moments that I will always remember. But there are low moments sometimes, and you just have to be honest and real with yourself and the people around you. And I think the more authentic you are about where you are, the better people receive you and the better you feel about you. Like, I feel great about me because I can be authentic about who Sharee is and where she's going. I don't have to show up as anybody else but me. And my clients allow me to do that. They're not mad when I show up as me. So that's good for me.
Are there any spaces that you've been in that you didn't necessarily see yourself in, or you were kind of like, how did I get here? Anything like that? And when I say spaces, I mean amongst other people, in certain positions to really be impactful as you have been, any of that?
I don't really think so.
Okay, so what have been some of your best experiences, some of your best events, some of your best moments?
I would say some of my best moments are, I partner and I work with Bruh Mentor, which is a nonprofit organization in Spartanburg, where I'm from. And I've been the planner for that event in that organization for about 4 years now. And we raise funds that go back into the community for underserved children that are going off to college or in like junior and high school, some middle school as well. But we do a fundraiser every year. And the folks that attend that event, I mean, we work on that event for a whole year. We typically raise $300,000-$400,000 a year for that event. And to know that I was a part of that is very humbling. Like, to know that I'm a part of changing a child's life so they don't have to pay for school, or they don't have to pay for laptop, they don't have to pay for after school, they don't have to pay for mentorship, it's no greater feeling. I just started working with the Gabe Devoe Foundation. Gabe Devoe is a pro basketball player. He just recently signed with Verano, Italy, and he has a nonprofit organization in Shelby, North Carolina. And so Gabe focuses on the youth that are underserved in Shelby. And so, as I've been working with Gabe and his family on how to convey that message, how to show the community where these funds are going. I mean, this past year, he gave away 4 $1,000 scholarships. I mean, that's major. There are some athletes that never come back to their hometowns and help in any capacity. Gabe is only 26 years old. I mean, 26 years old. Like, that is like wow to me. Um, I don't know many young kids that age that is gonna that comes back home and say, you know what, I just want to pour back into the kids. Like, you don't just see that every day. So to be a part of that, and we just had our first fundraising event 2 weeks ago, and so that was incredible. Like, we raised a ton of funds to go back into the community of Shelby, and it's just great. Like, it's just one of the most humbling experiences. Again, I don't care if I ever meet any of the children, but to know that it's getting poured into good ground and it's changing lives, it means a lot to me. So those are like my highs. And then obviously weddings. I love being able to see a union come together, like being a part of a bride and groom. I'm typically with them for 12 months, planning their wedding. I'm learning about the groom. I'm learning about the bride. I'm learning what she likes, what he doesn't like. They're texting me, hey, let's see if we can override that over her, or let's see if we can override that over him. And so, and just to see them come together as one, because a lot of times when they are engaged, they've been together for maybe a couple of years. Some of my clients have been together a year, 6 months, and they get married, and that's fine, to each his own. But to see them take that journey and to go through premarital counseling and to just grow together and make decisions together and know that I was a part of that, it just means the world to me. I take it very seriously when people get married. It's not something that I take lightly. I think marriage is a beautiful thing, and to be a part of someone's union is great.
I love that. You mentioned earlier something about relationships. Not going to ask you how certain relationships formulated, but let's speak more specifically about the benefits of relationships. You have a few sponsors, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
A few people okay. What are those sponsors?
So Belk is one of our biggest sponsors. We have Save the Children is one of our sponsors for the nonprofit, and let's see, one of our other good ones. The Zeta Phi Betas of Concord. They're one of our biggest sponsors as well. And so with those relationships and those sponsors, again, that's something that has been built over time. That's not something that I've went to the table and said, hey, I need this amount of money, or I need this amount of diapers and wipes. It's just not that easy. There's been several conversations, several meetings, several Zoom calls, several lunch meetings, several coffee dates, like them getting to know about me and my why, because there's always a why behind it. That's one of the things that I really and truly to the core, and I even remind my clients, especially my nonprofit and foundation founders, is that we will always remember our why. Even in those tough times, remember your why. Why are we doing this? Even if when there's a distraction that comes up, because I'm going to tell you, distractions come up, whether you're doing weddings, nonprofits, it doesn't matter. A distraction is going to come in the way of something that's trying to be great. It's going to come. But you have to understand, get back to that why. Get back to it. This is why we're doing this. We won't focus on this. This is why we're doing this. Nope, we won't focus on that. This is why we're doing this. And so just really like focusing on your why. Keeping that at the forefront of everything.
You got a Tito's sponsor too, right?
Yes, Tito's. Shout out to Tito's. Shout out to Brooke, my rep. I love Tito's. Tito's is one of our biggest sponsors with a lot of my clients that I'm able to get. And Tito's is a huge sponsorship of giving back to the community, giving back to nonprofits, and we built a great relationship with them, and I'm forever grateful for Tito's, for sure. Appreciate you, Tito's. Love you.
That's funny. That's what happens when you got too many sponsors.
I know.
No such thing as too many, but
I know.
all the relationships you got, you can't remember them all on spot.
Yeah, I can't remember all.
I
Shout
think
out
that's
to Athletes
amazing.
with too. Love you.
Boom, athletes. Just humble drops. Y'all hear that? Okay. um, is there anything that you feel like you haven't been asked that you want to share that you're, want to get off your chest or press to share? Um, and please let people know where to find you as well.
Yeah, I just say, I always talk to creatives a lot because I'm a creative and my mind goes a lot. Sometimes I have to like really shut it down when I'm going to bed because my mind is always on go. Like even after an event, like I said, it takes me about 1 or 2 weeks to come down off of it because I've poured so much into it. But just really understanding it's okay to to be still for a moment. Um, I think sometimes we think being still is not being productive. That's not true. You can be still and be productive. Um, don't be don't worry and focus on what everybody else is doing. Like you can congratulate and you can be there for people, but there are different seasons of life when it's like okay you need to be on scene. There's seasons that you don't need to be on scene, that you need to be quiet. There are times where you need to be networking heavily. Then there are times where you don't need to be networking heavily, but understand that your timing is your timing. Your timing is not everybody's timing. Just because someone else is over here doing this, well, you don't know the cost that they had to go through to do that. You don't know that. Everybody's not showing their struggles on social media. Everyone's not putting out, oh my God, my light's about to get cut off. No one's saying that. No one is coming on being like, y'all, I'm about to sign a GoFundMe account because I ain't had nobody email me in 3 weeks. So kind of need some groceries. No one's doing that. But understand that there are times when it's like that and it's okay to be vulnerable because that's where I feel like that's how come I have truly great clients is because I can say true to who I am now more than ever, and the clients that are being sent to me are just like really true and genuine people that are just like me. They really are, and I love that about my clients. Love it, love it, love it. And I have to say, shout out to every one of my clients. Every single one of my clients supports my nonprofit. Like there has never been a time where I have asked a client, "Hey, I really need this for meant to be." They're like, "Where I need to send the money? Where you need me to do this?" Like they always support everything that I do, and I cannot say how thankful I am of that. They always support, and 10% of proceeds from Couture Events goes back into meant to be. So when you support Couture Events, you are supporting the community as well because some of those proceeds go back to meant to be. So they help support mothers in the community. Where you can find me is www.coutureeventsbysharee.com. You can find me on my website. You can Google Couture Events by Sharee. It'll come up. Several links will come up. On my Instagram, it's Couture Events by Sharee. On Facebook, it's just Couture Events. We just rebranded, so check out our website. It's super beautiful. Shout out to Bliss Consult, Sequoia Homes. She has been riding with Couture Events and Meant to Be. She does all of our branding for both. Extremely grateful for Sequoia. She is always on point, always conveying the message that Couture Events is trying to convey to you all, and she's always on time with that. So,
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next conversation.
thank you.